Go.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the Life Podcast. This is Luke, and this is my co-host, Lewis.
Yo.
Me and Lewis are business partners, and we both run Life from our homes. I know we haven't done a podcast in a while, but we're trying to get back in the flow. Hopefully, this new recording software is a little bit better. So hopefully we can get back into the flow. And then if you guys want to, when you watch this video on YouTube, you can comment and ask questions, and then hopefully next time we do a podcast, we'll actually go back and look at those and answer those questions on the next podcast.
Yeah.
Although we probably won't be doing it live, I think that'll still probably be a pretty good system.
Cool. I think it's much better when people ask the questions, because I think sometimes when me and you are trying to think about podcasts to do, it's a little bit tricky, isn't it? So I think if people are actually sending in questions, it's much easier for us to answer. Because we know what the people want.
Right, that's what people want, and it provides more of a guideline, definitely.
I think we're just talking about meditation. I think that'd be a good one next week.
Meditation, yeah, because it's definitely one that people struggle with a lot of, and it is a more esoteric matter that a lot of people are not very familiar with, and they don't know where to start. And if they're not getting results from it, they can get frustrated, and et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, I do tell everyone, I even tell my clients, it is the most advanced and powerful part of the program. And if you can master it, it will change your life. For sure.
I think when it comes to the meditation, it's just about, I think in the beginning, it's about realizing how important meditation is. Because I think people get brought up thinking meditation's a bit airy-fairy and stuff. And you can't really understand the true meaning of it. And the fact that meditation, like before I start the program, if someone said to me meditation, the first thing that pops into my head is someone sat in a lotus position with their eyes rolled in the back of the head, seeing different visions and stuff, or tripping out or doing stuff. I think that's a good reason why Dr. Wilson's changed the name from the meditation observation exercise to the pushing down exercise, because it highlights that different aspect to it.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel good all the time. Sometimes it's detwisting your body, and your body doesn't want to detwist. Sometimes it's bringing up traumas that you've buried, and it doesn't feel good all the time. People always elicit meditation to feeling good, and sometimes before it feels good, you have to go through a certain process, of delayering your body and your traumas. You know what I mean? I've experienced this with many people. That especially when they first meditate, it doesn't feel good because you're going back in and you're dealing with your trauma, because it forces you to deal with it. You know what I mean?
But I think,
and then later on, it feels good.
I don't think it feels good initially as well, because most people's minds are racing that much and they don't actually realise it. It's difficult to understand what they actually need to achieve. That's for me. It was so confusing because my head was like a beehive. I didn't really know what I had to achieve. And the thing is, looking back on it now, it's so much more simpler than what I was trying to grasp. I was trying to I need to find meaning. I need to find meaning for the meditation. I need to do this, I need to do that. It's literally just about realising that your mind is just full of all this stuff, and concentrating on the fingers just stops you from following them trains of thought. And by concentrating on the fingers, you get a chance to slow the mind down and watch. Do you know what I mean? There's your mind, and then there's a deeper part of you, which is more of a soul spirit, your spirit, which can watch the thoughts. And it's just about, getting yourself to a position where you can watch it. But in the beginning, it's difficult. You've got to breathe. You've got to breathe deeply to start, stopping the mind, slowing down. You've got to make sure that you're constantly focusing on the fingers. You've got to make sure that you do it at least every day for 20 minutes. And it's having the kind of compassion to understand that it is difficult for some people in the beginning, it really is. But
yeah, it's important to realize just how powerful it is, and that from what I've seen, it's the most important lifestyle modification that you can make. Moving energy downwards will make you want to eat a better diet. It automatically makes you want to go to bed earlier, because it makes you more in tune to everything in your life and your body. It's the ultimate lifestyle modification. It automatically brings awareness of who you should bring into your life, who you should exclude. It automatically brings more awareness into what job you should do, what path you should follow. It helps you tune into your guidance. Helps you being more in tune with your body, so you know how much water you should be drinking, because you're more in tune to if your body is thirsty or not. It makes you have better posture because you're more inside your body, and you automatically feel the need to have better posture because your body feels better when you're sitting in a better posture. And then the list goes on and on.
I mean, this is a different video altogether, just talking about the benefits and talking about how to do it and why to do it and, you know, how long for and stuff. So, but I think next week we'll do a meditation one.
Yeah, for sure. So what we're planning on talking about a little bit is maybe a little bit of business, especially in these financial times, and a little about, healing while you're working as well. Because it can be hard to find time, especially to do everything in the Nutritional Balancing program. And it's always a balance between work, family, your relationships, and, doing your program. And this is going to be a difficult balancing act, But you get better at time management as it goes on. And, I've worked, and I still work a couple days a week doing, an 8-hour, shift at a typical sort of job, like working at a restaurant. And you can still do the procedures and do your whole program while working an 8-hour day. You're just going to have to go to bed early, and you're going to have to prioritize everything. You're going to have to get up early and then do your enema, and then, do your sauna before work or whatever. And you won't have nearly as much time for things like socializing or going out with your friends, but, sacrifices do have to be made, but it can be done. You know what I mean?
I think it's a tricky subject, because I think when you first start the program and stuff, you understand how kind of ill you are, that all you really want to do, or all I really wanted to do, would do the program. And obviously you're in a bit of a position where, unfortunately, in this day and age, you need to work. Like, you need some sort of income. Do you know what I mean? And I think for me, I really was trying to think of every single way that I like every single way where I didn't go and work a 9 to 5, because I just couldn't do it. There's no way on earth I ever could have worked a 9 to 5 like 4 years ago. And for me, I kind of prayed a lot, and I kind of, come up with different ideas and how not to work, and I ended up being a freelance web designer and graphic designer, which means I can work from home, which gives me much more freedom and allows me to do the work wherever. So I would kind of say to a lot of people out there who are on the program, try and find a job that's more free. Try and maybe, if you're feeling well enough to set up your own kind of business, try and work for parents or people that understand what you're doing. But I do genuinely think people that are on this path open them doors automatically a little bit. Do you know what I mean? That's what's good about it. Like, you don't realise how deep the program is, and once you're in that, there's thing, there's people out there. There's kind of, on a spiritual level, you get brought into opportunities, you get brought into different jobs that are actually going to aid you along and help you out on the healing process. I mean, that's how I felt for me. My first job when I first started the program was working for a practitioner in Thailand. So you can understand, the perfect job if you want to kind of do the program and heal. So, and I manifested that into my experience,
Right. And, luckily the program, it isn't as expensive as a lot of other programs, which is beneficial. And, it saves you money in the long run. I mean, think about people having to go to the doctor, spending money on medication and all these different things. And investing in your health, it really is, one of the best investments you can make. You can always go get another job. You can always go have another career. But if something happens, if your body doesn't work properly anymore, then you're in trouble. If your health falls apart, then you're in trouble. Probably more so than any other way. And so taking care of your health and taking the time is probably the most important thing, I would say, in your life.
I think it is as well.
And it's an investment, because when you heal your body to deep level, you're going to have more energy to work, more energy to make money and more energy to be successful. And you begin to realize that successful people, in most instances, they just have more energy than you for whatever reason. Some of it is a little bit, they're more hardworking, or they have, there's something in them driving them. Some people push themselves too hard with stimulants like caffeine, trying to accomplish a business, task or something like that. But in many instances, those people just simply have more energy than you. And they're just able to compete better than you in the business environment. And that's one thing you definitely begin to realize, is that most people that are running successful businesses, they're pretty healthy. Their brains are working better than the average person. And they have, in most instances, they have better lifestyle choices too.
Not all the time though. There's a lot of people out there that are really burnt out, like seriously burnt out. I mean, all these CEOs in London and stuff. I mean, I speak to a few of them. I spoke to a few people in Thailand and stuff. They're sick. They're sick, but they just haven't completely exhausted themselves yet. But it's definitely on the cards. But I think a lot of people need to understand the word success, because in the Western world, and for me, well, I used to think like this, is success was all about earning money. Success was all about getting a good job. Success was about external things in order to make you happy. But one thing I've realised, and is the main thing now for me, is success is based on how happy you are. And your happiness has to come from within. There's external factors that are going to increase your happiness, but most of the external factors are very temporary. It's always nice to do your work. It's always nice to get promotion. It's always nice to get more money. But if you're not coming from contentness from within, that means absolutely nothing at all. So the main thing for you is to concentrate on the program and to make sure that you truly love yourself. Because if you don't do that, success will never make you happy. That's just not how humans work.
And I think this is especially true once you get your life to a certain point. Obviously, if you're destitutely poor and you don't have enough food to eat, and you can't pay to heat your home, then that's a problem, and you need to work in order to get yourself out of that situation while you do your program. But I think this becomes more and more true as you achieve more financial success and your life becomes more about other things. It's like you get to a certain point, once you have certain things in your life, like, you have shelter, a comfortable place to live, the ability to buy whatever food you want to purchase, things like that. I think that a lot of people get to a point on the program where they definitely realize that there's more to life than, sort of financial gain. And I think it's important to realize that you can have it both ways too. There are many wise men that are also rich, and you can be wise and rich. Mm-hmm. And you can run a successful business, being of service to others and still be healthy. There's nothing inherently wrong with making money.
No, that's one problem. That's one thing that a lot of people, especially spiritual people, get worried about, is the fact that money's at the end of the day, money's just energy.
Yes,
money,
exactly.
That's all money is, and it's what you do with that energy that really matters. There's nothing wrong with gaining wealth. There's nothing wrong with that. Do you know what I mean? It's right. Your perception towards that, And
a lot of people have blocks with that.
Terrible blocks, the worst blocks.
Yeah,
and these people that have blocks about it, they suffer themselves. They think that they're doing good. They think that they're giving away money to charity. They think that they're not earning enough because they don't want to be greedy. But they suffer a lot. I used to suffer a lot by being in that mentality. And once I got out of it, there's nothing wrong with accumulating money. It's how you approach it, and it's what you do with it. Do you know what I mean? Money can make the world evil, but you don't have to be that person. Do you know what I mean? Money can also do a hell of a lot of good stuff. A hell of a lot of good stuff.
And for a lot of people that grew up poor, or they grew up, taught to believe money is evil or certain things, they definitely have blocks when it comes to money, thinking they're not worthy. You have to convince yourself that you're worthy of abundance and that you're worthy of accepting money. I've experienced this in myself, especially if I have a client that is, I know is somewhat struggling with money, it can be hard to accept, you just want to be like, oh, I'll do it for free, And that can
Especially if
be
it's your passion.
a good thing in some cases, but you have to be willing to accept. It's like Lewis said, it's an exchange of energy. And this goes back to even increasing your energy level to do better in business. People buy energy. In whatever profession you do, people respond to someone who has more energy automatically. Part of it is their posture. They're automatically more grounded. Part of it is the eye contact. It's a myriad of subtle indicators, but part of it is also the downwards movement of energy. People can feel someone that they have more downwards moving energy in their body. People can feel that when they're around you. Some people don't like it, by the way. That's a very important concept. Many people will be off-put by your downwards movement of energy because it automatically brings them things in themselves. I've experienced this numerous times. And so that's, something to be aware of. But for the most part, it's, a good thing.
But I think don't worry about, I kind of been on the program now nearly 5 years, and, I'd like to think that my energy level and physical level is good, which it is. I can't complain at all. But I've found recently that I started to take on some more work, and it started to get a little bit detrimental, and it doing the program and work, it's all about balance. You should not be in the mindset of wanting to heal yourself in order to become this big businessman that hasn't got any time to do anything. Do you know what I mean? It's not about that. It really is about balance, work balance, life balance, relationship balance. Because if you haven't got that balance, again, it leads back to happiness. That's the core thing in everyone's, that should be the core thing in everyone's mindset, is their happiness, their contentness, their ability to receive love and give love, and work for me gets put on this pedestal far too much. If you concentrate on being a good person, your work will shine, and it's difficult because you want to earn more money and you want to expand and you want to hire people and this and this, but it just causes more stress.
Yeah.
If you just focus on being honest and doing a good job, you will receive abundance, and that's one thing that people stumble across, I think, a little bit. It's having that humility and contentness to just be content with what you've got, live simply, have a decent income, and not think that you've got to do more and stress yourself out more to become more successful and earn more money. It's not necessarily the case,
Yeah, and as you heal and become more grounded, you can take on more without it being a stressor. You know what I mean? Like, I can definitely work more hours now than I could early on.
No, yeah, without a doubt.
And remain more grounded. You know what I mean? And part of that is also, once you get us to a certain financial point where it's not as much of a stress to live, it's like, you're still working, but it's just, there's not as much pressure. And it's just, and in the way you're more parasympathetic and more relaxed about your work. Because if the work goes wrong, it's not necessarily a huge deal. You know what I mean? If you take a small risk or something like that, you know what I mean? And it's important, once your brain works, you'll be able to understand, certain rules about business better and certain rules about your financial health. Where to invest your money, how the banking system works, how to use, corporations to hide assets, things like that. These are very important today, especially with high tax rates and ever-increasing government monopolies and regulations and things like that. You can't be afraid to learn how to protect your assets the best that you can.
I think it's a good idea these days to accumulate and not to spend. I think no one
saves nowadays. The entire Western world.
No.
The individuals are so far in debt. No one saves anymore. And it's very important, to save, and it's also important to invest that savings. And it's important to invest in different things. because one investment might not go as well as the others.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely true. But yeah, healing yourself definitely opens your eyes, and it lets you definitely understand certain concepts better in order to protect, your wealth. For instance, today, we have very high inflation due to, central banks. Central banks basically have a monopoly on the money supply, right? So the Federal Reserve prints dollars, and then the U.S. government, they buy or borrow those dollars from the Federal Reserve. So the Federal Reserve is basically a private institution, not owned by the government, that produces the money supply. And this is how central banks work. But then, you realize that these dollars are not actually backed by anything. Okay, and so they just print more and more money, and then these nations, they go farther and farther into debt, which they cannot escape. And we see that now, the Bank of Japan and the Bank of Sweden have both gone into negative interest rates. And so negative interest rates, basically it's a last gasp of the banks to stimulate quote-unquote demand by, you don't want to keep your money in the bank. You want to spend it, because if it sits in the bank, then you're getting charged a negative interest rate, which means they're basically taking money from your account every day. So you're paying the bank, to keep your money in it. Usually it's the opposite. The bank is paying you to keep your money in the bank, and so you want to keep your money in the bank because you're earning money. It's just sitting there earning money. And so we're seeing that now in that cash, and we're seeing the central bank currencies, that what we call fiat currencies, which basically means a currency that's backed by nothing except by a bank. We're seeing those things basically disintegrate before our very eyes.
But the worrying thing is, Luke, not many people realise it.
Yeah.
And it's difficult. It is difficult because you do hear every year, oh, it's going to crash, it's going to do this, it's going to do that, it's going to do that. So it's, it's for people to have that foresight and that maturity to realise, I mean, if you think about it, and I was saying to my friend the other day, like, I've got money in the bank. All my money, virtual money, is sat in a virtual machine, you know what I mean, in some office that's made to look like something important. Now, it only takes one person to push a keyboard key for me to literally not have anything whatsoever. Now, when you understand about these corporations and about the accumulation and about, the fact that we had a huge crash 4 or 5 years ago, and the oil prices, and it just makes you realise you need to be careful. There's got to be some sort of backup plan in place.
Yeah, I think, and very important at this time is to invest as much money as you're comfortable into real assets, whatever that may be. Some people choose precious metals. That's a good one. Real estate is an excellent one. The land isn't going anywhere. And there's lots of different avenues for people to invest their money into real, tangible assets. Because we're going to see. I think we'll probably see all fiat currencies go to zero. And yes, they've been predicting a crash for a long time, but these things take a long time. And we're about. If you look at history, fiat currencies don't usually last more than about 40 years. If you look at fiat currencies started by the Greeks and the Roman Empire, and all the way back then, any fiat currency eventually just dissolves. It's an inherent quality in it because there's nothing backing it. Eventually, the bank just prints more and more and more until it becomes worthless. And this is really the fate of all fiat currencies eventually. And so I think it will be painful as these currencies collapse to an extent, but I think that there will be such a rapid adoption of other types of currencies and other sort of payment platforms that it won't be. I don't think it'll be as bad as people think. I don't think it'll be quite so crash and burn. It'll more be just like a huge capital movement of where capital just basically is leaving these banks. So we can see that now. As soon as the Bank of Japan went to negative interest rates, the bank stocks just started crashing. Because why would people have stocks in banks and have deposits in banks when they're basically their money's getting stolen from them? So the bank stocks started crashing. And so what you're probably just going to see is this mass relocation of capital and resources into other sorts of things. This includes gold, this includes silver, this includes real estate, and this includes, I think, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and perhaps another one, Ethereum. I don't know if I should go into the technicalities of things like Bitcoin. I do encourage you to read about it and decide for yourself, because it is rather complicated.
We should note that soon we'll be accepting Bitcoin on our website.
Yes. We will. What I'm doing currently is, I buy Bitcoin and I hold it, and then I use it for certain purchases. If you guys want to go to purse.io, you can go there, and you can actually save about 20% on any Amazon purchase using Bitcoin. And so it's important to realize that with Bitcoin and these other cryptocurrencies, there's already reasons for people to use them. Besides, they actually have certain functionalities that already people will move to because they can save money. What if I told you right now that you could just save 20% anything on Amazon? Would you do that? Most people would. And so, doing, these cryptocurrencies like such as Bitcoin having these properties that already make it economically beneficial for people to use, I think, will really make the market expand, But with Bitcoin, I think it's important that you read about it, and it can be difficult, especially for the layman, to wrap your head around. I've spent the last couple months reading about it. I think I feel I have a pretty good understanding of it, but it took me a while. It's a pretty new concept, and you start to realize the implications of it too. Where everyone can basically be their own bank, where governments can't inflate the money supply, where the currency holds its value. And you can do smart contracts on the blockchain and all sorts of things that don't even involve money. All sorts of things. You could, I think it'll even probably at some point revolutionize like voting, because it's a decentralized network. And so you could have people vote with uncorruptible, basically, voting tokens. And then because it's on the public ledger, it's uncorruptible. And so there's no chance for governments to tamper with voting machines or other organizations. A lot of people are distrustful of electronic voting, but if you put voting on the blockchain, you solve that problem. It's an unmutable record of who voted for what. So I think the underlying technology of things like Bitcoin are going to revolutionize a lot of aspects of life.
Definitely. And the fact that it's so popular now, even for people that don't really understand it, the fact that it's so popular is something to think about and look at. And if you understand Bitcoin, you'll realise that it cannot be taken control of, it cannot be destructed, it's its own entity that no one controls. Do you know what I mean? No one's got the ability to switch it off, no one's got this and this. I mean, the only thing that I kind of think of, but this is kind of a bit extreme, is, the fact that precious metals are tangible. They're in the hand. If anything happens to your internet connection, for example, you don't have any Bitcoins, so there is that aspect to it. But that's a very good
point. And it's also important to realize that, like anything, if you have Bitcoin, someone can steal your password, and if you store your Bitcoins on a online wallet, so they call them wallets, where you store your Bitcoins. If you store them online, just like someone can steal your username and password for your Chase account or your business, for your banking account, and then they can log into your banking and then they can send money or, steal money from you. They can do the same with Bitcoin. And so it's important that you realize that and that people take precautions to protect their investments. But what he's saying when he says that, no one can stop or hack into Bitcoin, the network itself, where who owns how much Bitcoin and your wallet address is unmutable. And no one can hack into it. but someone can still hack into your computer and see what passwords you are using to get into that account. But there are techniques to get around that. There's something called cold storage. So, for example, to store Bitcoin, you have your wallet, right? And then that's an address where people can send your Bitcoin. It's like 20 letters. You can store that on a piece of paper and put it in a safe deposit box, and there it's safe because it's not on a computer anywhere. You know what I mean? The problem you run into is when you're logging in with usernames and things like that, then people are looking at what keys you're typing and things like that. But if you do certain things, there's basically no way for anyone to steal your Bitcoin if you take certain precautions. That's what a lot of people do is they actually print out the address of their wallet and on a computer that's never been attached to the internet, so there's no chance of the computer being compromised. You know what I mean? And then they generate and put it on a piece of paper, and they actually put that piece of paper in a safety deposit box, that they control. And then if they ever want to get to it, they just open up their safety deposit box, and it's safe, because it's not online. The information isn't online for anyone to steal. You know what I mean?
Cool. Well, it's interesting. I think people should definitely take a look at it.
Yeah. I would take a look into it, and if you look at it, it's the price is steadily going up. Just like I think precious metals will go up as well. I think real estate's in a bubble. If you're gonna buy real estate, I would wait. Unless you get a really good deal, I would wait. This is not necessarily true if you're like renting it out or something, but if you're looking to buy property, I would definitely wait. Because I think that the bubble will pop and then it'll bottom out, and then you can buy it for way, way cheaper. Things like that. But I think in today's day and age too, it's going to be hard to. You kind of want to just protect the money that you have. There's no for instance, in the 90s they had the .com bubbles and things like that, and anyone that bought stock in these companies on the stock market basically made a ton of money. If you bought stock at eBay, or Apple. If you bought Apple when it was $1 a share, you know what I mean? It's gone up, I don't know how much Apple is worth now. I think it's like, hundreds and hundreds per share. But, and so I don't think that there's many opportunities that exist like that in today's age. The most important thing is just trying to convert your savings into assets where they store the wealth. Gold stores wealth. The same amount of gold today still buys, the same things that it did in the early 1900s. It costs more in dollars because your dollars are worth less, but it costs the same amount of gold. Because gold's a very good store of value. So I think it's important in this day and age. Don't take a lot of risk. I wouldn't try to make money on stocks or things like that necessarily. Maybe if you bought like gold mining stocks or silver mining stocks, that might be a good idea. But I think it's best to be prudent, to save as much as you can, and to convert that savings into tangible things so that they store their wealth, and that you can make it through a difficult time if you have to.
Cool. Sound. Well, definitely check it out. It's a big area, a little bit like nutritional balancing.
Right, it's a huge area. If you're going to research it, I would go to YouTube. You can basically learn anything you want on YouTube nowadays. I use YouTube to fix my cars. I type in YouTube, teach me how to put in an alternator on my car. So I would go to Bitcoin, and then the best people are a man by the name of Andreas Antonopoulos. He's a man from Greece, who's a computer programmer. He's been doing computer security work for 20, 30 years. And now he's one of the main developers of Bitcoin Core, which is basically a group of developers that work on the source code of Bitcoin. And he does numerous interviews. And he has books digital books you can download. Andreas Antonopoulos is probably my favorite person to learn from. Another person that's good is Roger Ver. He's a good one. And then Eric Voorhees. Those three are probably the best. You just Google them or type them into YouTube, and you can see all sorts of interviews that they do and things like that. But they're pretty good at speaking in layman's terms and letting people know what Bitcoin means to the world, how it kind of works, how you can go about using it, how to buy it, and social implications and things like that. Especially Andreas Antonopoulos, I would highly recommend him, and he probably has the most content out there too.
Cool. Anyway,
then,
let's.
I'll put his name down in the below the video. I'll put his name.
Cool. I was thinking we should talk a little bit about how to actually work when you're really sick on the nutritional balancing program, which is one of the problems that I had when I initially started, because I couldn't do much. So I found some little tips and tricks to kind of get me through the day and stuff.
Right. One trick is caffeine. Caffeine is probably the best stimulant out there, besides maybe like loud music or something. You know what I mean? Combination of the two. Using a little bit of caffeine, it can be beneficial. I would use it earlier in the day. If I drink a lot of caffeine after like 2, I don't sleep as well. Especially as your body becomes more sensitive. But I mean, some days if you're if you're terribly tired and you have to work hard doing some sort of physical labor all day, a little caffeine can go a long way.
I think one of the most important things, especially when you first, when you're pretty sick and you're doing a nutritional balancing program, is to realize that you need to start to slow down the mind. And when you're in work, instead of getting into work and doing 100 jobs at once and taking on this and taking on that, and you need to start pulling it back and reining it in. And I remember when I first started, I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to get judged because I'm not doing as much work. Everyone's going to notice this. But in actual fact, people didn't really notice, because I started to slow down what I actually did, and it's a strange thing that happens when you slow down to do work. You actually produce, in a sense, more work because it's higher quality work and you spend more time on it, but it burns you out a lot less.
Right.
If you can speak to your employer about your problems and stuff, and just let them know that it'd be nice for you to take a 15-minute break, 3 or 4 times a day, I'm sure they're going to understand. That's really important. If you can just take 15 minutes break every hour or every 2 hours, and literally just close your eyes if you can, or shut down the computer, or just don't do anything, or meditate if you got an opportunity. People don't realise how much your body can rejuvenate if you just sit there for 15 minutes and close your eyes. It's really powerful. I mean, people who've got insomnia, for example, if you just lie there in bed and don't do anything and don't think too much, you'll be surprised how much energy you can rejuvenate. And that goes for 15 minutes, half an hour, an hour. I mean, when 3 years into the program, when I was still a bit fatigued and stuff, but my energy was still back, I just needed half an hour lie down, or an hour lie down, or 15 minutes, and I was back in business. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes that's all you need, but if you don't do that, you just wind yourself down. You just haven't got enough energy to do anything.
Right, and part of it is in some instances, it's important to also realize there's another coin to that, and some of it's going to be development of the will. I had times when I was going through bad detox, and I had zero energy, and I had to go do landscaping for 8 hours, weed whacking and, doing construction, basically, for 8 hours at a time, and I had no energy because I was eliminating a lot of things. Through that time, I was eliminating a lot of the amigos, which are, certain things that stimulate the adrenals. They're oxide forms of minerals. But, I just had to power through it, And there will be some instances where you have to develop your will and learn how to push through it, So that's, another side of the coin.
And there's a willfulness to slowing down as well.
Exactly.
But the people that tend to be overworkers are in sympathetic dominance, so they've already got a good sense of will, which is a benefit. And use it to slow down, use it to understand that slowing down is important. And
you have to use your will.
Yeah.
And that with sympathetic dominance, it's really helped me. And what we say when we mean sympathetic dominance is people tend to overuse their sympathetic nervous system, which means they're in fight or flight. Which means, their bodies are tense, their minds are racing too much, they take on too much work, they have a hard time relaxing, there's a lot of factors go into it. But a lot of these people are very willful. I've experienced this. I have very strong will, to get things done and things like that. And the meditation exercise really helps this because it's a new use of the will. Instead of using the will for other things, you're using the will to push energy downwards.
And sometimes you need it. Like, to get out of sympathetic dominance, if you don't do that meditation, it's difficult. It's really tough. Really tough.
I don't know if I could have healed without it.
No, me neither. Me neither. I don't think I could have come out of it. Me neither.
Right.
But prioritize. Like, one thing that you need to do when you're in that situation is prioritize everything. What's the main thing that you have to do in order to achieve your work or to achieve your job or to, and write down a list. Even every night, 10 minutes planning can save you so much time and effort you don't realise. Like, every night, I'll just tell you a little bit about how I organise myself. Every night before bed, in fact, I use an iPhone. I'm not going to recommend iPhones because of the EMF problems, but I've overcome a lot of my...
one too.
I overcome a lot of my EMF problems, and it's useful. And I should probably speak a little bit more about EMF and computer use because it's difficult at work. But when anything pops into my head, and you could do this with paper, in fact, I would actually recommend doing it with paper. Keep a little notepad in your pocket.
That's what I do. I use paper.
Yeah, and when anything pops up in your head, write it down. Grocery shopping, you might have 5 different clients that you work for. Write down underneath the clients all the jobs that you need to do, and kind of keep sections in your book. Or on my iPhone, I have lists. So I have like nutritional balancing list. I have a list with all my nutritional balancing things that I need to do in the day. So I've got coffee enema because there's a lot of things to do, and it's just there to remind me. So I've got like a list for nutritional balancing, a list for all my clients that I work for. Like list to buy for the house, this and this, and it doesn't clog up in your mind, and you remember it better. So all I do at night is sit down in bed, chill out, get out a notepad, read through your lists, and write down the next day the things that you need to prioritize, and prioritize them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yep. Becoming more organized is extremely powerful.
Yeah, so
as important. You heal, you'll automatically become more organized. This is strange, but as you become more yang, part of that is being organized. And as if you're a man, and as you start to eliminate your copper, and you have a more masculine energy, you will automatically become more organized. Which is one of the nice things about nutritional balancing is that it does all these other things that people don't realize.
Yeah.
And organization is so important. And what Lewis said is it's so powerful, especially in today when we have iPhones and things like that. And I use paper personally, but you can use iPhones or reminders, any sort of like Google Calendar is great.
The amount of work that you can do. I'm a web designer, graphic designer, so I have people working for me, and like I just use, it's like they'd speak to me on Skype, and I can go around, walk in the garden, go out for a walk, even do enemas, doing saunas, and I can still do a bit of work from my phone. Like, it's really good. To be fair,
right.
we do sell the Mem on mobile on our website, and in all honesty, Luke, I used to have terrible EMF problems looking at my phone, and as soon as I put the Memonizer on there, I didn't get any issues whatsoever.
Nice.
One of the reasons why I wear these glasses, because they got a thick lens, is to, I mean, these little tips and tricks to use for the EMF is to, it helps me. If I didn't wear these glasses now, I would start feeling the EMF. Mm-hmm. So, just little things to help me through the day. I mean, if you do work on a computer, I use a projector. So I'm not staring at a screen all day. I'll hook it up to a projector so I'm staring at light. People don't realise how important it is actually to get
right.
away from the EMF. It's really bad.
And as far as organization goes, what Lewis was talking about, the most important thing that you're doing is that you have some resource that tells you what you need to be accomplishing, and anything that comes into your mind, you are writing it down. So if you're awake at night, if it's like 8 o'clock at night, and then you remember all of a sudden something you need to do the next day, you don't sit there and try to embed into your mind that you need to do that the next day. You take your piece of paper, you take your iPhone, and you write it down to that thing. You write it down whatever application you're using to store what you need to do the next day. Mm. And then you need to make it a habit. You have to make it a habit that's one of the first things you do in the day, and that's what you're doing throughout the day. Is instead of going into your mind and thinking about what you're having to do, you already see what you have to do, and you're just checking it off. Crossing it off on your piece of paper. You're checking it off on your iPhone, and then as you kind of more ideas come out throughout the day, and you realize what you need to do, you write those down in order.
And plan before you go to bed, like I was saying. Like, honestly, if you spend 10 minutes planning the next day, you will achieve so much more in the next day. And you get up in the morning, you do your program, you do what you need to do, you start work at 9, 10 or whatever, and then you sit at your desk and you just get through each one.
Right.
Don't waste your time on Facebook. Don't be procrastinating doing things that you don't need to be doing. Like this there is some happiness we're built in to recognize a sense of achievement when you achieve a task. And
right.
I've read a cool book by a guy named Brian Tracy called Eat That Frog. And he says, when you're writing down the list, no one wants to wake up in the morning and eat a frog. If you're gonna eat a frog in the morning, if you eat the frog at the start of the day, the rest of the day is so much easier. And like what it means by the frog is the most difficult, like hardest task that you just can't be bothered to do, and you're like putting it to one side, but you know that you need to do it, and once you've achieved it, you're gonna do really well. Put that in the beginning. When you wake up in the morning, you're fresh. Eat the frog. Eat the worst thing in the morning, and all the tasks afterwards get so much more easier. And if you don't procrastinate, if you're in a job where you can finish early and you've done your jobs, then brilliant. If you finish at 3, 4 o'clock, that's fantastic. You got all the evening to chill out, do some more of the program, meet friends, So I think procrastination is especially important, and even more important if you do the nutritional balancing program, because it does take time. It does take time, and it's so easy just to sit on Facebook and waste your time and give your power away to other things and other people. It's just so easy to do. Everyone does it, and it's don't get like annoyed at yourself for doing it, but just realize that you're just giving your power away for no reason.
Yeah, I'll be back in a second.
All right. Do 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 do. It's the Arctic Monkeys. I'm sure a lot of people can realise that I'm from the north of England. I'm from Sheffield, the home of the Arctic Monkeys.
And I am home.
And
if
you need some motivation in the morning to get some work done, download their first and second album. You'll
download the album Colors by Between the Buried and Me.
Never heard of them. Over them indie band.
Or
Rock and roll.
What's another one?
AC/DC.
You could download Recovery by Eminem.
But another good thing that I do when I do my work is listen to soothing classical music, or I'll listen to a radio station with a good debate. There's Radio 2 in England, and I like listening to Jeremy at 1 p.m. and they have debates about the current affairs, and it keeps you involved, and people are ringing up debating and stuff, and it's like it's a bit of an intelligent conversation, and it kind of keeps you going a little bit.
I do that with YouTube channels. Most I do Stefan Molyneux, Peter Schiff, and a couple other ones. Like I really like the Dollar Vigilante.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dollar Vigilante is cool.
Have you seen what's his name? I forgot his name.
He is
But
cool.
It talks about
I like how in
business.
his podcast he's always sitting back and like he's like in the Caribbean, like at his mansion in the Caribbean with like he's like on a hill with like the beach, like, and it's just all glass behind him, and he's just sitting in his like little like office chair. He leans back, he just starts smoking a cigarette during the podcast. He's just like, I love it. I love the Dollar Vigilante.
So good. Yeah, there's amazing podcasts out there, especially on YouTube. YouTube's an absolute goldmine. Different bits and bobs, and downloading audiobooks and stuff like.
Just go to YouTube College. You don't need to go to college. Just go to the YouTube College.
But even Dr. Wilson's website with if you're using a Mac on Chrome, you can. I always get Chrome to read out Dr. Wilson's articles while I'm doing some work and stuff like.
Is it a robot voice though? Is it like?
No, it's all right. It sounds a little bit like him actually.
To bounce the chakras, you need to make the body more young.
No, come on, Luke. We're in 2016 now. The voices aren't that bad.
Oh, okay. I remember. I haven't heard speech to text in a long time. I just remember the old one where it was just like a robot. Like.
What, on like Windows 2000?
Yeah. And then
when you're like 12-year-old to get in the computer to say swear words and that, you're going giggling.
Yeah, you'd call your friends up and then you'd play it on the phone. Like,
oh god, like Anonymous.
Yeah. But I think this concept what Lewis was saying about giving your power away is a pretty good one. About, friends don't necessarily always have your best interest at heart when they're encouraging you to come over and stay up late and do drugs with them and all these different things. They don't necessarily have your best interest at heart, and that's not necessarily what's best for you at that time. And you have to take that into account. And then when you do those things, you're giving your power away.
But don't isolate yourself as well. I think a lot of people on the program and the kind of vibe that it gives out, and to not go out with friends as much and to not do as many things and stuff like. Yeah, that is true. But having friends and being in a healthy relationship and being around your family and stuff, like for me, that is super important as well. Like we are social creatures and we thrive off that connection with people. And don't deprive yourself of that, because it's not a nice feeling. And don't talk yourself into the fact that you should be happy by yourself or you should feel content. Like I don't feel like. You should be content and you should be able to be alone, but at the same time, not all the time, like not constantly. You still have to go and see your friends, like enjoy family meals and enjoy different things, and because
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and I think isolation is in most cases more important in the beginning. When you first start I was definitely more isolated my first year. It's because you just wanted to get down to it, and you want to, try to start healing yourself. But as you become more grounded and you start to heal, you become less affected by the imbalances in other people and things like that.
I think you do have to do it in the beginning. I think you do have to do it in the beginning, and some people are so ill and so desperate that they want to, and that's not a bad thing. Like definitely, I had to cut down. God, I was going out every week, going to friends' houses every night, drinking most nights a week, and that initial step for me was exciting because I'm like, I feel like I found something that's going to help me out, but at the same time, it's hard because you're missing friends, but I don't know, it was alright, it kind of kept on going. But after a couple of years, 3 years, when I kind of, and Dr. Wilson mentions it, you kind of wake up from a dream of it was like someone gave me the keys to my prison door cell, and I walked out, and I'm like, damn, I'm pretty isolated, and that's when I started to kind of integrate myself back in. But that's why I think we're talking about this podcast now, is because I think me and you are at a stage where we're confident in learning how to balance work and the program. I know, for me, I'm in a position where I can work and I can do the program at the same time, but I'm also in a position, or I was in a position, where I was taking on more work because I was thinking I'm getting better, and it wasn't a good idea for me to do that. And it's about bringing it back in and understanding that, like we were saying before, like the program and your health is so important, and the understanding that your body, like really all it is a vehicle for for receiving and giving love. Like, that's what it's here for. Like, there's nothing else that's real. Like, love is the only thing that's real. So it's, don't, like, I start getting on that path towards accumulation and, I'm getting better now, I'm going to become this, like, super entrepreneur, and, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but, you know, the program and your health and, you know, the calmness in your mind should always come first, because as soon as you start taking on more work, your brain's going to start moving quicker again. And if you might be on top of the hill, but you're not down the other side yet, and it's so easy to come back down, you know. So always keep that in mind, that the program and the meditation should always come first before you start the day.
Yeah, and it's very important that this concept that if you do the program, the most important thing is doing the program and moving forward on your program. This means moving to a state of more intuition, higher health, all these different things. And only then does it become apparent what you should or should not do. Because only as you move forward in your healing and your spiritual development will become apparent to you if you need to spend more time with your family. Or maybe as you heal, it becomes apparent to you that your family is extremely toxic and they're all a bunch of vampires, and you need to cut them out of your life, at least for the time being.
Or to realize, or to be in a position where you can separate your energy from theirs a little bit and mature. The meditation's brilliant at doing that, because instead of you being sucked into the environment, being sucked into the conversations and the kind of negativity, you walk into an environment and you see you're the mature one. You know, you think that your parents or your grandparents are the mature ones. You're the mature one. Do you know what I mean? And you can see. It's like a great analogy is you can see the woods for the trees, which means you're not in the forest looking around and blah blah blah. You've come out of the forest and you've seen it as its whole. And I'm the same. We you know. So my family members, and you know, I went last night, and it's different now because I kind of went and I saw it for what it was. I didn't want to go in there to kind of boost my ego, to kind of make them accept me, or for me to accept. You know, it wasn't like that anymore. I wasn't grasping for acceptance, which I think a lot of people do when they're in families. They want that father figure, they want that motherly figure, they want to for the family members to be proud of them, and it's about being proud within yourself, and maybe, you know, I mean, definitely for me, connecting up with God and understanding God and understanding that aspect of things. I definitely weren't religious when I first started all this off, but once you get into that vibe and you start receiving different things and you start connecting with God, He's the one that kind of gives you the groundedness, gives you the maturity, gives you the guidance and stuff. And once you've got that connection, you don't really need to try and make other people accept you or you know, be the person that you know.
And as you heal yourself and move energy downwards, it becomes apparent in your life what you should or should not do. If you're healing and you're moving your energy downwards and you're active on your program, it will become apparent to you if you need to take on more work, or if you should do less work, or any sort of these things. So that's a very important concept, is that healing is most important, and then it becomes apparent what you should or should not do next. Yeah. You know, I think that's an important concept. Yeah. All right, I think that's a pretty powerful concept. Maybe we'll just leave it on that note.
Yeah, man, we're bang on 1 hour pretty much, so I think that's a nice time to wind things down a little bit.
So yeah, hopefully we'll start having these podcasts at least once a week, and then comment below any questions, and then we'll get to those questions and answer them on the next podcast.
And also, any topics people would like us to focus on in particular would be good. Maybe we could bunch a few in at one time.
Yeah, definitely. And then I'll include some resources at the bottom too, like Andreas Antonopoulos, maybe a couple other things that, you know, different financial things that you might find interesting, maybe like a couple links to like books that you could read about banking, things like that. And then, we hope to see you guys next week, and I hope you enjoyed the podcast.
All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.